me a little bit about what you're doing here? About the setup?
Setting up our marimba. So it happens every time before our practice. It's the hard work.
Jabulani began as part of a world music summer camp program, Lively Up Yourself, at the Roundhouse Community Center. Bringing together youth from various walks of life, the camp taught them everything from samba rhythms to how to play a Zimbabwean marimba. The kids involved in the program were asked if they wanted to continue playing together throughout the year. With much enthusiasm, Jabulani was born in the summer of 2002.
We learned how to play instruments from other cultures like Japanese type of drumming and Zimbabwean marimbas and Afro-Cuban samba and stuff like that.
Experiencing diverse musical traditions makes Jabulani one of the first youth groups of its kind in Canada. On top of that, the band learns songs not from sheet music, but orally through their artistic director, Pasi Gungawo.
I don't get it the first time he shows it to me usually, but shows me it to me a couple times, and he breaks it down, and I learn the separate parts of it, and then I join it all together and keep practicing it over and over again, so I get it engraved into my brain, so I don't forget it.
It's by ear, so Pasi will play the rhythms, and then we'll play them back.
This is the way Pasi learned to play marimbas in his native Zimbabwe. The music begins to grow organically as each member of the group adds his or her own style and inflection.
This is a different concept of getting music and learning music, and not just music, but learning different cultures too.
By learning music through an oral presentation by Pasi, Jabulani's members are joining a new wave of education. This new method is rooted in a belief in the benefits of multiliteracy. Educators and psychologists are pointing to the fact that children living in a pluralistic society in the 21st century need literacies beyond the traditional skills of reading and writing. Learning music orally, without ever looking at a sheet of music, adds another literacy to those in Jabulani. Such a skill is essential to help youth gain a new perspective on the world around them and become culturally literate. This different style of learning is opening up completely new horizons for these kids.
We are going to do a musical exchange with people at a school in, Matanzas, yeah. And we're going to teach them stuff about us, and they're going to teach us music and dance in their own culture.
I'm excited about learning about this new culture, and not just from other adults, but from people my age.
In March of 2004, Jabulani had the opportunity to travel to Matanzas in Cuba. Part of a 7-day cultural exchange, the group shared their oral tradition of learning music with students at the Escuela de Arte de Matanzas, the fine arts school for the province of Matanzas. As well as bringing donated musical instruments and other gifts to give to their hosts, they brought the most important gift of all, the chance to experience a different musical tradition. Learning Zimbabwean marimba music through oral presentations by Pasi took on a whole new significance when Jabulani touched down among one of the most advanced musical cultures in the world.
My expectations in this trip are to go learn more drumming with the Cuban drummers, and have fun.
I'm sure that it's going to be a good adventure for all of us.
My expectations are, I guess, to be part of a whole different place, because from what I've seen today, it's much more different from Vancouver.
Arrival in Cuba has Jabulani in a completely new environment. The temperature, the UV rays, and getting up in the morning are all challenges to be faced.
It's Monday, it's 8:15, we're loading on the bus to go to Matanzas to the school. And we should be there by 9 o'clock so we can have our tour. So everybody's loading on and we're about ready to go.
So, like, how's this comparing with your life on the road as a rock and roll roadie?
We're going to have to make our bus call about a half an hour before the bus leaves.
Apart from the early wake-up call, Jabulani is ready for their first appointment, a meeting at the Escuela de Arte de Matanzas.
You're welcome to our school.
After a formal greeting by Alejandro Morales, the school's director, Jabulani encountered their first cross-cultural learning experience. A series of dance classes pass knowledge from their Cuban hosts down to them. From a salsa to the rumba, they pretty much try it all. By imitating the Cuban dancers, the members of Jabulani are learning the same way they do from Pasi.
It sure is interesting. It's pretty fun. Maybe a little more than we might dance in Vancouver.
As Jabulani practices Cuban dance, their enthusiasm for learning new skills is watched by Cuban students. Seeing how each other approach an unfamiliar learning situation is another valued aspect of Jabulani's visit. The Canadian youth are inspired by the Cuban students' focus and commitment to their studies. Next stop is a 140-year-old theater in Matanzas, where Jabulani will perform alongside their Cuban counterparts. The breathtaking size and majesty of the hall is another memorable experience to be tucked away. The rehearsal goes well, with Jabulani practicing their gumboot dancing and marimba playing. Another aspect of Jabulani that makes the ensemble so unique is the way they interact on a peer-level basis with their artistic director. Pasi empowers these young musicians by building their confidence to interpret and express music from a culture other than their own. Any concerns about whether Cubans will like Jabulani's music are soon forgotten when the dance students from the Escuela de Arte de Matanzas show their appreciation and understanding of the music by joining Jabulani and Pasi on stage and participating in the performance. One of the advantages Pasi finds teaching music through the oral tradition is that language is not a barrier. These students, aged 9 through 14, learn so quickly that by the 4th day they are able to direct their own rehearsal in preparation for the closing concert with Jabulani. As Pasi is teaching Cuban children how to play marimba, Jabulani is learning things of their own, interacting with their Cuban peers and observing the similarities and differences between the culture they're in and Canada. The group is on the cusp of something far more important, realizing the value and contributions of other races, countries, and cultures. The word Jabulani comes from the Shona tribe of Zimbabwe, meaning be happy. It was chosen when the group began back in 2002. Now, alongside their musical cousins in Cuba, that meaning comes to life as they play their hearts out for their closing concert in front of a packed audience. The meeting in Alejandro's office on the last afternoon of our visit is a complete surprise. While we sit anticipating the formalities that are always a part of such an occasion, Alejandro shocks us. He tells us that, as a result of what he's seen and what he's been told by the music teachers and students, he wants his school to make Zimbabwean marimba music a focus of their music program. And he emphasizes he believes schools all over Cuba will want to do the same thing. When Alejandro asks for notated music, Passy tells him about the nature of the oral tradition. Because only the basics of a song are taught, the young musicians are free to add their own interpretations and improvisations. The development of each song becomes a creative process, and its presentation by an ensemble becomes a community activity. Alejandro and Passy agree to work together. In addition to providing the Escuela de Arte Matanzas with their own set of marimbas, they agree to foster more understanding through future cultural exchanges between young Canadian and Cuban marimba players.